الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات الإمام السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Continuing with the theme and the discussion that we've been having from the very first day of the month of Muharram under the title of Messages and Lessons from Ashura. We've been reciting these verses from chapter 89, Surah Al-Fajr, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing Nafs Mutma'in, a serene, satisfied soul, addressing it to return to its Lord in the state that there is a satisfaction from both ways and enter into being the worshippers and the servants and finally enter into paradise. We mentioned constantly and repeatedly that these verses, although were revealed way before the event of Karbala, if anything at least 50 years before the event of Karbala, if not more, but the implementation of these verses is what we see in Karbala. And from the very beginning, the surah which begins by swear, wal fajr. And it is also another phenomena for us to ponder over and look into, as we've been mentioning bits and pieces of tafsir every day as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sworn by all of the times that we have. So in Quran you will find was-subh, wal-asr, wal-fajr, wal-layl, and all of the other times that are mentioned in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by them. And that tells us one thing, that when Allah swears by something, takes an oath, there's a reason why you and I take an oath, and there's a reason why Allah takes an oath. You and I take an oath because we need to make someone understand what we're telling them, and what we're telling them is 100% truth. Because they're not understanding our ordinary words, so we go up a step, we take this oath. We make this qasam. And when we use this qasam, it puts burden, it makes it heavy, it has some weight in it, and therefore the person on the other side accepts it and embraces it, saying you don't need to go any further. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why is He swearing by this? In fact, if you look at it in Quran, there are many other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken an oath by. And primarily the reason that has been explained is just to emphasize on that particular thing or object. Because when you're in a gathering, and this is the job of an orator as well, you throw in something which grabs the attention of the audiences. And once they have grabbed the attention, then they go ahead and deliver their message. Back in Arabia at that time, everybody was busy with Arabic poetry and prose. And that was something which they did. And when Quran was revealed, when it posed challenges towards these individuals, saying that if you can bring something like this, we'll challenge you. And so there are threefold challenges that we find in Quran. First challenge was, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Surah Baqarah. That if you have any doubt as to what we have revealed, bring forth something like this. Use all the help you want to, if you are truthful in your claim. Then Allah lowered the challenge. These are called ayat-e-tahaddi, challenging ayat. Allah lowered the challenge. He said, well, the whole book might be difficult for you. فَأْتُوا بِعَشَرٍ ayat, bring 10 verses of this like, muftariyat, that you have forged in kuntum sadiqin. This is in chapter 11, Surah Hud. Bring forth 10 chapters like this if you're truthful. They were unable to. So Allah lowered the challenge. Because you start with something high. If someone is unable to do, you lower the challenge. And then you lower it further. فَأْتُوا بِحَدِيثٍ. Bring forth a conversation, a verse, an ayat of the ayat that could match and live up to the ayat of Quran if you are truthful in what you say. And then the answer was, no, if you were to go ahead and grab all of the powers of jinn and ins, لَإِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْجِنُّ وَالْإِنسِ, if they were to get together, they will not be able to bring forth anything like this. Because it's a challenge, it's a miracle of Rasul. But one point that if you pay attention towards it, this is where it goes to show our aqidah on Quran, that Quran is the way it was revealed. There has not been any fabrication, alteration, or change in this Quran. There's no tahrif. We as Shias are not believers of tahrif in Quran. That is the common view and the popular stance of the Shia scholars. That we're not believers of the tahrif of Quran. And one of the reasons is the second challenge that I presented in front of you. فَأْتُوا بِعَشَرٍ. Bring forth 10 chapters like this. Where is this ayat? In the 11th chapter. In the 11th chapter, it is saying, bring forth 10 chapters like this. The ones that have passed. From Surah Fatiha up until the 10th chapter. Surah Hud is saying, bring forth 10 chapters like this. That shows you that the way Prophet placed these ayat is still intact up until this day, how it was back then. That's why this ayat is in the 11th chapter of Quran, asking these kuffar to bring forth 10 chapters of the likes of Quran, if you have any ability. Salawat bheje Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So here as well, Allah says, wal fajr, was subh, wal asr, wal layl. All of these times, wal nahar, all of these times are being taken oath by Allah to show us the importance of the time. Time is very important. Do not waste your time. Time is money, as they say over here. And therefore, make sure that you utilize this time properly. Our discussion yesterday began in the area of the historical lessons that we derive from Ashura. Up until this point, we've been able to discuss some of the theological lessons, some ethical lessons, some lessons pertaining to the reality of the life. We've talked about Amr bil Ma'ruf. We've talked about azadi and freedom. We've talked about ithar and preferring others upon yourself. And various different topics which go under the category of deriving lessons from Ashura have been discussed. So yesterday we started talking about the historical impact that Ashura had and the lessons that we can derive from. So we began by discussing as to how right away there's a discussion where there's a mention in the words of Yazid as well, who's trying to distance himself from the whole incident of Ashur and Karbala, saying that, may Allah curse Ibn Marjana, he did it on his own. I had nothing to do with it. I only asked him to bring Hussein over here, and he himself acted upon doing what he did. May Allah curse him. He planted the seed of animosity in the hearts of people for me. He did this, he did this, he did this. I had nothing to do with it. All I had asked him to bring Hussein to me. He acted on his own when he went ahead and killed Hussein, and he made his family, noble family, captive, and he did it so and so to him. This was not that Yazid was, feeling ashamed of what he had done. But this was the political pressure that was applied upon him. And I'll tell you why he's not truthful to what he was saying. We all know that he wasn't truthful. But there are people who are trying to defend him today still. So there needs to be an answer for them as well. You and I already know that he wasn't truthful in what he was saying. But there are historical facts which claim and tell us that yes, for sure he wasn't truthful. But before that, it was all because of the political pressure that was applied upon him that it made him say things that he said. Right away, as soon as the family of Rasul and the family of Imam Hussein is brought into the court of Yazid, there's this whole commotion in it. There were 10 different people who stood up speaking, condemning what Yazid has done. Among them was his own family members, his wife and his daughter. Among them are some of the ashab of Rasulullah who had seen Rasul when they saw Yazid, disrespecting the head of Imam Hussein right away. These ashab, Jalil Qadr ashab, they stand up and say, oh Yazid, stop what you're doing. I've seen Rasul kiss these lips of Hussein, which you're striking with your stick. There were people in the court of Yazid who were ambassadors of other nations, Christians and other religious background. They right away started questioning. One of them said, oh Yazid, who is this? Whose head is this? He said, this is the head of Hussein. First he did not want to answer, but then he said, yes, it is the head of Hussein. Said, who's Hussein? He's the son of Fatima binte Rasul. He mentioned that there's only one gap between Rasul and Hussein. He's the son of the daughter of your prophet of this ummah. Yet you went ahead and killed him like this? How bad is your religion? This is what your religion teaches you? Even then, by looking at this act of a Muslim, right away people were condemning the religion. You see today similar things are happening. By looking at the misconduct of some individuals, people are claiming and reflecting and saying that this is what this religion teaches them. And we have to defend this religion then right away. These were all of the different effects that were happening. And right away, Yazid had to openly denounce what had happened. Right away, he distances himself, saying, may Allah curse Ibn Marjana. When we curse Ibn Marjana, Ibn Ziyad, people question us. Yazid is the first one who's cursing Ibn Marjana, Ibn Ziyad. La'an Allah Ibn Marjana. May Allah have curse upon Ibn Marjana for what he did. And so we see that this was only a political move, a tactic, because he was put under pressure. But in reality, did he really mean to say all of that? He even went to the extent that I don't want to go in that discussion as to how long Ahlul Bayt remained in Syria. According to some historians, they only stayed there for a week. And then Yazid was so much under pressure that he had to release them right away. Imagine if all of these pressures are coming, you think he will keep the family for one whole year? Right away, all of these pressures made him release the family, and not just that, provide them, zadira, there will be people accompanying you all the way to Medina. They'll make sure of your comfort. They'll take care of you. Complete change in how Ahlul Bayt were brought into Sham and how they're leaving. Right away, we see, so this is another discussion I don't want to go into as to how long they stayed in Sham. That will be another discussion. But most authentic, historians who have discussed this, they believe that they were only there for a few days because of all of this pressure. How could he keep them for one whole year if he's going under this pressure right away? So right away he's distancing himself. He said, I didn't do it. But we know that he is not meaning what he said. Because if that was the case, first thing he should have done, he should have removed Ibn Ziyad from his post. As a leader, for example, the president of the country, who's commander-in-chief over here, if one of his army chiefs, who's in charge of a battle or whatever, does something horrific to the extent that such as what happened in Karbala, he ends up killing people. And then the president, who's the commander-in-chief, first thing he does, the public address, he says, I condemn all of that. And then does he leave the army chief in his position? No. When you're condemning his acts, you should also go ahead and remove him from his post. But we see that Yazid did nothing of that. In fact, a couple of years down the road, when the event of Harra took place, initially Yazid, before reaching out to, Muslim ibn, we actually call him Mujrim or Musrif, he reached out to Ibn Ziyad. I have another task for you. After Karbala, he reached out to Ibn Ziyad once again. I have another task for you. The battle of Harra and the event of Harra that took place after a couple of years, in which city of Medina was desecrated. The mosque was shut down. There was no salat in it for 3 days. There were animals who were, left in the mosque, and all of the atrocities that were committed. So there was no shame and there was no regret as far as Yazid is concerned. But we also linked all of this to the time of the Khilafat. We said that Karbala is something which has roots all the way from the beginning of the events, from the beginning of the Khilafat, right after Prophet's death. Prophet who has brought this religion to its perfection, that Quran says, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. That perfection of the religion, what happens? Continuous downfall. Downfall in the first Khilafat, downfall in the second Khilafat, downfall in the third Khilafat. And then Muawiyah when he comes into power. We mentioned few examples in the first Khilafat as well. Won't repeat that. The incident of Khalid ibn Walid with Malik ibn Nuwaira, taking advantage of his family, his wife, after killing Malik, just because he has gone to collect zakat. And then we all know the incidents of Fadak and all that. Second, in the time of second Khalifa as well, we see all of these battles that are taking place. The only reason where non-Muslims had said that Islam is spread on the power of sword is due to the time of the second Khilafat. Because of all of the advancements that were made. Not because of what Prophet had done. Nobody said Prophet was spreading religion on the basis of sword. No, not in the time of Rasulullah. All of those were in defense. But it was only in the time of the second Khilafat that we see. And then the third Khilafat, nepotism, favoring family. Those people who were condemned by Rasulullah, bring them into power. Give them this city, give them that city, give them this Baitul Mal, give them that and whatnot. Nepotism was the key at that time. So we see that it has roots all the way. And then sending into exile such ashab of Rasul, such as Abu Dhar. When did it happen? In the third Khilafat. In fact, to the extent that al-Mu'mineen, one of the wives of Rasulullah, stood up against the third Khalifa, calling him to be a Jew, calling him to be a long-bearded man. He referred to him as Na'fal. And then, all of this thing. But then right after his death, the same cloth was taken around, weeping for the third Khalifa. So you see change of events. Only when she learned that Ali has been made the Khalifa, right away all the hatred that she had for Uthman went away. It turned into the hatred towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then it spelled out in Battle of Jamal and so on and so forth. So we see the roots are all the way in the back. After Imam's martyrdom, other proofs that what Yazid and Ibn Ziyad said. Yazid said, I wish my ancestors were alive today. They would have seen how I have taken revenge of the early days. I would have shown it to them. How proud they would have been of me had they been alive and they had seen how I have achieved this today. In fact, these are the words of Ibn Ziyad as well. He said, Yawmun bi yawmi badrin. This day is for the day of Badr. Today I dedicate this for the day of Badr and those who were killed in Badr. All of the family was killed. And this is where we see our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. He said, Inna wa ala Abi Sufyan ahlu baytain. We and the children of Abu Sufyan are two households. Ta'adayna fillahi. We were always in fight in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We always disagreed in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what our sixth Imam is saying. Qulna sadaqallah wa qalu kadhiballah. We said that Allah is truthful. They kept saying that Allah is a liar. They kept denying the verses. They weren't saying Allah is a liar. They were denying the verses and they were denying the wahi. They were denying the revelation and so on and so forth. We kept defending that. And then Imam said, Qatala Abu Sufyan Rasulullah. Abu Sufyan fought with Rasulullah. Wa qatala Muawiyah Ali ibn Abi Talib. Muawiyah fought Ali ibn Abi Talib. Wa qatala Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Hussein ibn Ali. And Yazid fought Hussein ibn Ali. Wa yuqatilu Sufyani al-Qa'im. And Sufyani will be standing up against the Qa'im Hujjat Imam Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. These are the words of sixth Imam. Look how he's painted the whole picture for us. Very simple. We were defending Allah, they were against it. First one fought against Prophet, second one fought against Imam Ali, third fought against Hussein, and Sufyani will fight against Mahdi. So this wasn't an incident which people were unaware of. For example, Baitul Ilm hosts an event and tell later on, Maulana sees you, how come you were absent? Maulana, we did not find out about that. No, we sent out email. There were constant announcements. Nobody should say when the Amal of Ashur will be. It was just announced today, right now. You should be there 7 in the morning if you want to perform these Amal. Nobody should come up and say that, oh, I was unaware of it. Imam made sure that he did Itmam Hujjat as well. He said that nobody at that time in Medina, in Mecca, in all of that Muslim land should be unaware of what I'm doing. So that tomorrow nobody says, oh Imam, we did not find out you were going against Yazid. We did not find out you were, taking a stand against Yazid. Oh, had we known, we would have come with you. We were unaware of it. Imam made sure that if it's going to happen, everybody finds out about it. And that's why you and I, when we recite the ziyarah, what do we say? Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum fa'fuza fawzan azima. Or ya laytana kunna ma'akum. That, oh Imam, we wish that we were with you. That we were with you and we had attained this high status of shahadat alongside with you. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, reminding people of that ayat of Quran of Surah Nisa 165 in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Rusulan mubashirina wa mundhirina li'alla yakuna ala nase li'alla yakuna linnase ala Allahi hujjatun ba'da rusul. We send these Rasul, one Rasul after another Rasul after another Rasul. Why? So that it would be itmam hujjat for the people. Nobody can say that, oh, no prophet ever came to us. We never received any ta'alimat from a prophet. Or, for example, today nobody can say that, no imam came to us. But even then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, even if you physically did not meet a prophet. Inna lillahi hujjatain. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are two types of hujjat. Two types of proofs. Hujjatun zahira wa hujjatun batina. There's a zahiri hujjat of Allah, which is in the form of anbiya, rasul and ma'sumin. Wa hujjatun batina fahiyal uqul. Allah has given you this aql. This aql should bring you closer to the anbiya and rasul, which will eventually bring you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are all the itmam hujjat, or the ultimatum that has been given. Imam, when he's giving the speech, he reminds people, do you not know who I am? I'm the son of Fatima. I'm the son of Rasulullah. I'm son of Ali. I'm nephew of Ja'far Tayyar. I'm grandson of this. Sayyid al-Shuhada Hamza was from us. Imam is reminding one reminder after another so that nobody has any doubt who Imam Hussein is. You know who I am. You know my relationship to all of these individuals so that tomorrow nobody can say, oh, we did not know it was Hussein who performed this. Had we known it was Hussein, son of Ali, son of Fatima, grandson of Rasulullah, we would have accompanied him. No. Imam made sure that he spelled it out to everyone. He said, have you not heard Rasul? He said it about me. Hassan wal Hussein, Sayyada Shababi al Jannah. That Hassan and Hussein are the leaders of the youth in paradise. Have you not heard about me? Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. That Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. And if you do not believe me, alhamdulillah. Imam had to go to that extent. Allahu Akbar. He had to say to people that if you don't believe me, ask these ashab. Jabir is here. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri is over here. All of these ashab who have heard and narrated Prophet over and over, they are over here. Ask them if I'm telling the truth or if I'm lying. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad par. Third thing is to spread and explain. Tabyeen of the message. We hinted towards that yesterday, but going in a little bit of details of it. That is one of the messages, one of the historical messages of Ashura. That you make sure you spread what has happened. And that was primarily the reason why Imam brought his family along. It was due to the sermons of Imam Sajjad, it was due to the sermons of Janab Zainab ibn Kulthum that people found out the actual tragedy that took place in Karbala. In fact, our fourth Imam, when he came back to bury his father, they didn't allow him to bury right away. They were sent to Kufa. Then Imam came back with mu'jizah to perform the last rituals to go ahead and bury the body of Imam Hussein and all of the other shuhada. You know what Imam wrote on the Katba of Imam Hussein? This is what he wrote. He said, هَذَا قَبْرُ الْحُسَيْنِ ibn Ali. This is the qabr and the grave of Hussein ibn Ali. الَّذِي قَتَلُوهُ أَتْشَانًا وَغَرِيبًا. The one who was martyred in the state of thirst and in the state that he was gharibul watan, he was ajnabi, he was a stranger over here. He did not write Hussein ibn Ali, daughter, son of Rasulullah, and grandson of this and no. All he wrote, just showing the place where people will read and right away it will have effect on them. Who is this Hussein? Alladhi qataluhu atsyanan wa ghariba. The one who was martyred in this way. In fact, Imam ﷺ had to face further, when he wanted to stand up in the court of Yazid to give a speech. Right away, Yazid knew who these people are. In fact, there are a lot of ash'ar and the words that Yazid has said in praise of Imam at that time. So you do not know them. You know how they are the family of Rasulullah. The Quran is in their tongue, in their mind, in their body. And when they'll speak, there will be commotion all over here. But nonetheless, people say he's weak. He's faced such calamity. What can he possibly do? What can he possibly say? Let him speak. And this is where Imam ﷺ starts speaking. And then Yazid knows only one way to stop Imam. He says to Muazzin, it's not time for azan yet, but give azan nonetheless. Muazzin starts giving azan. Imam finds even victory in this azan as well. When he finished saying, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, he says, stop over here. Who is this Muhammad you're calling upon? Is he my grandfather or is he your grandfather? In fact, when Imam was coming into the court of Yazid, when they were brought in, this is how they had infiltrated into the minds of the people. Imagine, this is the place For 25 years there was sabbu shitam, cursing upon Ali and Ali. To the extent when Amir al-Mu'mineen was martyred, people said, Ali martyred in Mihrab? What was he doing in Mihrab? They had an opinion that Ali and Ali don't pray. They have nothing to do with religion. That's what they were taught from the pulpit in Sham. This is the same Sham that right now Imam is in. There's an old man, confronts Imam, says, look how Allah has made you asir, and how He has degraded you, disgraced you. Instead of Imam showing any reaction, Imam in fact didn't speak to anyone on his way. But instead of showing any emotions and reactions, Imam said to him easily, have you read Quran? He said, yes, I'm Hafiz of Quran. He said, yeah, I see now the Hifz of Quran of yours, that you're Hafiz of Quran, yet you don't know what Quran is saying. Well, these are my words. Imam didn't say that. Imam then reminded him of ayat. He said, have you read that ayat which says, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ? Give the qarabadar, the family members, their right. He said, yes, it's in so-and-so ayat, so-and-so surah. He said, you know who that qarabadar is? That's us. He said, have you read that ayah which says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُمْ فِي الشَّيْءٍ أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُمْ فِي الشَّيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى. The ayat of Khums. That if you attain something, portion of it belongs to who? Dhal Qurba. You know who that qarabadar is? That's us. Have you read that ayat of Surah Ahzab? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. You know that Ahl al-Bayt is? He said, who's that? That's us. Imam gave him ayat after ayat after ayat, to the extent that this person, in matter of minutes, Imam changed his whole mentality. Changed by reciting the ayat of Quran. He said, you've read Quran. Have you read these ayat? Right away, this person started asking for forgiveness and what. So Imam had to go through all of these troubles on the way as he was going along. But we see that Imam Hussein did perform Itmam Hujjat, and Imam Zainul Abidin and Janab Zainab performed what is known as the explanation of the whole incident. Here we're going to look at some of the reasons why people knowingly fail to help Imam. One of them is dunya talabi. Talab for this world, going after this world. And that's what we see in the kalam of Imam Hussein heavily. I kept on reciting this hadith. I'll repeat it again. An-nas abidud dunya. People are servants of this world. Last part of it says, إِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُ. Right now everyone's all right. As soon as there's some sort of trouble, difficulty, you will find very few to be holding on to this faith. Similar thing happened with us. In Karbala, they were all mu'mineen before that. But as soon as they were threatened, قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. Very few out of that Kufa came out. Habib was in the same Kufa, he came out. Hani ibn Urwa was in the same Kufa who gave himself. And then those who couldn't come because they were asir and captive, such as Mukhtar and so on and so forth. Very few, قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. Very few are going to be steadfast. Imam then repeatedly said, قَدْ انْخَزَلَتْ عَطَيَاتُكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. The reason you're not joining us is because of the gifts that you have received. You got to remain loyal to the gifts that you've been receiving. Imagine I have to give you gifts to come to my majlis. Now you're going to be loyal to me. Maulana gave us gifts, so I have to come to his majlis. We want to go somewhere else, but because we got to show our faces to him because he has given us gifts. That's what had happened over there. They were given these hadaya, these atayat, and Imam said, قَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونُكُمْ بِالْحَرَامِ, or مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. Your bellies are filled with haram, and that's why you're going after this world, and you're not coming with me. Second is ghaflat, heedlessness. So one place, people were after the world. Second group of people were ghafil, they were heedless. Because they were not the ones who gave their blood in attaining this religion. Those who gave their blood with Rasulullah to bring this religion alive or bring this religion to a state, they felt the pain for this religion. And if they had seen this religion is struggling like this, they would have jumped in. But no longer those people were alive anymore. It was the children of their children. They didn't share the same pain. Because when you have not worked hard to gain something, you will not really feel anything when you're losing that thing. I think mafhum of that was said in the last night's majlis as well. That if you worked hard for something, you attained it, it will be very difficult for you to let go of it. Or when you lose it, you will feel sad about it. But that which you just received out of nowhere, out of the blue, giving it up, well, who cares? Someone else will do it. A lot of times we hear this, oh, someone else will take care of it. When it comes to amr ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar, someone else will take care of it. No, as-sabiqun, ulaika al-muqarrabun. Those who take lead in these good things are the ones who are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people were heedless. And then acting, abandoning their taklif, that which had become wajib upon them. I'm running out of my time, so I'll go through this very quickly. What does that mean? That amr bil ma'ruf and nahi al munkar is your taklif right here. You should perform that. In fact, the riwayat say that ahkam ilahi are the namus and the honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam said this. He said, Ilahi, wadattu an uqtila wa uhyiya sab'ina alf marra. O Ilahi, even if I'm killed or given life, I would want to have life and death even 70,000 times fi ta'atik wa hujjatik. As far as it is in your ta'at, in your obedience, and in your hujjat, siyama idha kana qatli nusratu dinik wa ahyaw amrik wa hifd namus sharak. As long as my life is served for what? Protecting this religion. I don't mind being alive 70,000 times and being given death 70,000 times. Because I want to protect this religion of yours. Hifz deen. So riwayat say that the ahkam shari'i are actually namus of Allah. I don't know how to translate the word namus, the honor, I guess. Our namus is, for example, for a husband, for a man, namus would be in the form of wife, in the form of mother. For the spouses, for the wives, there are other things that are namus for them. Their own, for example, chastity, sanctity, and their iffat and whatnot, their hijab, for example. Things that you do not compromise are your namus. For example, I was walking down the street with my family, with my wife, with my sister, and someone points or says something derogatory towards them. How would you feel? You will go ahead and want to protect them. Now, remaining in your capacity, if you could go by this peacefully, you would try to go that path. But I'm saying you would feel right away threatened. You want to protect your namus. Masumin are saying that the ahkam ilahi are namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You worry about your own namus so much that you cannot even hear one sentence against them, which apparently did not do anything to them. But when you see that the ahkam are not being practiced and you don't say anything, as if you don't care for the namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You care more for your own honor and your own namus, but you care less for the honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we see that the historical lessons that we were trying to derive could be these people's satisfaction and submission against the oppressive rule. They were okay with the oppression. That's what we learn from the Ashura. One of the messages from Ashura is that those who did not accompany Imam, they were okay. They were submissive towards the oppressors. That's fine. We'll live under them. Second, abandonment of their duty and their taklif. What their duty was, they left that. They abandoned that. They did not act according to that. Forgetting amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, which is a wajib just as the other wajibat. Love for the riches and the worldly goods. People fell prey and victim to what that was offered to them instead of accompanying Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. Heedlessness about the affairs of the society. Ghaflat. What is going on in the jami. Oh, let it happen. Someone will get up and go ahead and do the work. We'll live our life nice and easy. We don't need to get into all of these different, masail and the affairs that are happening in the society right now. Abandoning the divine leader and his commands. That's something which happened, and we learn from Ashura as well, historically speaking. An absence of uniformity in the views between, what this Ummah Islam is doing. People could not come to the same stance. Listening to what Imam is saying, people should be able to come, bring themselves together, their forces together, yet we see lack of unity at that time. But one of the fawaid and the benefits that we get from Ashura, as far as us today are concerned, we actually see that this unity is achieved from Ashura. One of the intangibles or intangible lessons from Ashura is this unity that we see. Regardless of where we come from, what background we might be. In fact, there's actually no boundaries for the religion either. Anyone who hears about Imam Hussein comes together. Brings everyone together. There might be differences between people in this town or other towns, but when it comes to Ashur, when it comes to Imam Hussein, everybody comes together. So I'll go through very quickly that one thing that is achieved from this Ashura is this unity. We see unification that is from all corners of the world. We see unanimity in standing against evil, against batil, and towards haqq, for goodness. We see unanimity in distancing ourselves from the oppressors such as Yazid of that time and Yazid of this time, and then getting together for those who are giving the message of Hussein in this time and at that time, and then obviously standing up for all of the mazloom of the world, those who have been oppressed. So we see that this unity is also achieved from, historically speaking, from this Karbala and from this Ashura. And this was also learned, as I've run out of my time completely, when this little martyr went towards the battlefield, he also brought one unity. Among the worries of Hazrat Rubab was that everybody is going to sacrifice their children tomorrow. Who am I going to sacrifice? Women over there are actually worrying. What are they going to sacrifice? They don't have anything to sacrifice. Imam Hussein comes to Hazrat Rubab saying, don't worry. The jihad of Ali Asghar and jihad of Sakina will bring a change in the way people think about us. Don't underestimate the age of Ali Asghar and your daughter Sakina. He will bring a change over here, and she will bring a change in Zindan-e-Sham. Zindan-e-Sham, they were taken as hostages, they were taken as captives. But today, who's the ruler as far as the shrine of Janab Zainab is there? Yazid was the name at that time. There's no wujud of Yazid over there. Similarly in Karbala. So we see that Imam is telling Hazrat Rubab, don't worry about this. Ali Asghar's jihad, do not underestimate the power of the jihad of Ali Asghar. And the uniformity and the unity that it brought, which I will get to later on as to how when Imam has brought Ali Asghar out. Upon seeing, and let me bring you back a little bit actually, that Imam ﷺ is by himself now. Everyone has died. No Ansar left, and there are no Jawanan Banu Hashim left. Imam is by himself. He goes towards Maqtal, and the istaghasa is raised. Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Hal min mughithin yughithuna. Is there anyone who will come and help us? As soon as Imam said this, there were three reactions to it. I don't have time to go into all three reactions. One reaction was, Imam right away hears commotion inside the tents. In Khiyam, Where the ladies were, Imam hears some commotion. He runs towards the khiyam. He says, "Oh Zainab, what has happened?" He said, "Mawla, as soon as you say, Hal min nasirin yansuruna," Ali Asghar threw himself from the cradle. He's on the floor, and nobody can pick him up. He won't go to anyone. Imam goes to the 6-month-old. There's a conversation, either in words or in mind, between father and son. Imam picks up Ali Asghar. In other words, maybe Ali Asghar is trying to tell Imam that I might not be able to go on my foot to perform this jihad, but I would want to perform this jihad. Imam understands what Ali Asghar wants. He says to Rubab, "Let me take him to Maqtal." Rubab stands on the door of the khiyam. Imam says, "What are you doing over here?" She said, "Mawla, anyone who has gone to Maqtal from this morning up until now has not returned back. I just want to see how my son will be killed." Imam consoles the heart of a mother. All of those mothers who are here today, especially when you're holding an infant, when you bring an infant to this Farsh Azan, keep this with you. When you're coming here for a couple of hours for this majlis, you got your infants with you, you make sure that you bring water for them. You make sure that you bring milk for them. If they feel thirsty right away, you run after and get them water. If they want milk right away, you're looking for the milk that you have brought for them so you can give milk to them. No, there's a baby in Karbala, 6-month-old for that matter, 3 days, there's no water, there's no milk for him. Imagine the difficulty of a mother when she's unable to provide to that infant. These are the difficulties, brothers and sisters. But Rubab is also giving us a message. Look, if ever religion is needed, even if this 6-month-old is required, do not hesitate to go ahead and sacrifice the 6-month-old. Look how I'm giving my 6-month-old. If your 6-month-old is needed, do not hesitate for a second. Imam says to Rubab, "Don't worry, I'm not bringing him to be fighting. I'm rather bringing to maybe I can get some water for my young son." Imam brings Ali Asghar out. He speaks to Qawm Ashqiya, the enemy, saying, "You have problem with me? You have deprived me of food and drink and whatnot? What is why are you depriving this 6-month-old? What has he done? Is there not a Muslim among you?" First, Imam reminded them of your religion, of their religion. And then when there was no athar on them, Imam says, "Is there not a father among you?" Because if you're a father, you would understand my problem. That how I'm struggling with this 6-month-old. And when that even did not help, Imam then said to Ali Asghar, "Oh Ali Asghar, these people will not understand what I'm saying. Now you have to show them what you need." Imam places Ali Asghar onto the ground. He steps away and says, "Look, anyone can come and feed and give some water, sips of water, drops of water to my son. I'll step away. If you think that I'm asking for water myself, here's my son." And then Imam tells Ali Asghar to do itmam hujjat. This was the scene which actually united the enemy as well. Ali Asghar, in that little sense that he has, he rubs his tongue, which is dry as bone, over his lips. And as soon as the people in the enemy's army saw that scene, there was a big commotion in them as well. Some of them actually tried to hide their faces because they could not control their tears from weeping. This is where Umar Saad says to Hurmala, "Iqta kalam al-Hussein." "O Hurmala, cut off the kalam of Hussein. Do not let him speak anymore, because if he spoke more, there will be revolution in my own people. Go ahead and iqta kalam al-Hussein." I don't know what Hurmala thought of that, how he wanted to cut off the kalam of Hussein. And if you want to cut off the kalam of Hussein, you should attack Hussein. Who does he attack? He throws the 3-pronged arrow towards Ali Asghar, which is bigger than the size and the height of Ali Asghar. It pierces pierces through the throat of Ali Asghar. This is where Imam picks up the body of the 6-month-old. Imam, how does he pull out? Imagine when the arrow goes in, it goes in, but it pierces through your body. But then when you try to bring it out, how difficult it might have been for Imam. He had to bring that dagger out of the body of Ali Akbar, and now he has to take this arrow out of the body of Ali Asghar. Imam might have looked towards Najaf, might have looked towards Najaf and spoken to his father. Oh, my father, lifting the gate of Khaybar with 2 fingers might have been easy for you. Killing Amr ibn Abdawad might have been easy for you. But pulling out an arrow from your 6-month-old is not an easy task. Imam takes the body of Ali Asghar and comes back towards the tent. The amal that we perform on the day of Ashur, Imam goes through that. How does he bring this body back to the mother whom he had promised that I'm only taking to get some water for him? And this is where Imam calls upon Rubab. Oh, Rubab, and come and take Ali Asghar. Rubab was coming out, but there was this young girl who ran before Rubab and came out of the tent and said to Imam, oh Baba, Ali Asghar is beloved to you. He's more dear to you. You went and brought water for him, and you went and you quenched his thirst. Your Sakina is still thirsty. Imam removed the daman. He saw the body of Ali Asghar. She saw the body of Ali Asghar, our 6-month-old, martyred in this fashion as well. Allah la'anatullah al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu al-lazina zalamu ayyamun qalbin yanqalibun. Allah, please accept